we've got maybe a couple of minutes. Maybe we're almost at 10. We've got just a few minutes.
Yeah, I'm a few minutes early. Wanted to make sure that the Zoom link worked.
Yeah, thank you. We so appreciate that.
Technology, a blessing and a curse.
Yeah.
Isn't it true? That's the one thing that can go wrong when you've had every other detail addressed.
Okay.
Claire, do you get my email I just sent?
Yeah, I understand you had to do a little bit of editing. That's fine. Oh,
Hey,
you
Roy.
muted.
Yeah.
So, Alyssa, how many did we have registered?
We're at 46 now. Someone just registered, so I'm sending them a link real quick.
Okay.
I just did it, Alyssa.
Oh, thank you.
Yep.
We're nearly at 10, Claire, so maybe I think we should start our programming on time.
Yeah.
People
I'm
may
waiting
float
for the
in.
clock to roll over one more minute.
Yep, that's what I've got too. Okay, mine says 10, but if your
Yeah.
clock is a minute
Mine-
off.
Mine does too. So welcome everyone to our Meet the New DRS, Department of Retirement Systems Director. And we've got folks still coming in, but we need to proceed with the introductions and such. But first, Derek, housekeeping issues.
All right. Thank you, Claire. Good morning, everybody. Thank you for joining us today. We ask that you remain muted during today's webinar. We have some pre-selected questions for Director Leathers. However, if you do have questions that pop up, if you can please place those in chat. If we have time at the end, we'll present those questions. If not, we'll try to get them answered and send those out to attendees afterwards. So we appreciate your help with that. With that, I'll pass it back to Claire.
Let me start by introducing some key folks on our side. Our legislative committee is chaired by Dave Koenig and co-chaired by Nancy Healy. Several other of the members are here, and with the legislative committee, we have two work groups, the healthcare work group chaired by Matt Grashong, the pension policy work group chaired by Warren Warfield, and includes Debbie Lippincott, Gail Spaeth, Linda Jorza, Diane Yates, and Linda Nelson. And they, together with David and Nancy, have helped craft the questions for today. And we'll be asking the questions when we get to that part of the agenda. And then I'd like to introduce Kathryn Leathers, the new director of the Department of Retirement Systems, appointed in January of this year by Governor Ferguson. She's one of 3 ex officio members of the State Investment Board and serves on the Pension Funding Council and the Select Committee on Pension Policy. So she's deeply familiar with our longstanding fight to restore the recurring cost of living adjustment to RPEC members vested in DRS plans, PERS and TERS 1. Before taking on her current role with DRS, she served as general counsel for the office of former Governor Jay Inslee from 2017 to 2025, providing critical legal and strategic advice on statewide issues. Before that, Kathryn served as senior counsel to the Washington State House Democratic Caucus, supporting legislative efforts and policy development. She also spent nearly 5 years advising the Washington State Bar Association on legislative affairs and over 5 years delivering nonpartisan legal counsel to both Democratic and Republican members of the House of Representatives. Kathryn's earlier professional career included clerking for a Superior Court judge in Anchorage, Alaska, prosecuting criminal matters in King County, Washington, and working for the law firm of Preston Gates and Ellis, now K&L Gates, in Seattle, Washington, primarily in their complex civil litigation department. Kathryn holds a Bachelor of Arts degree from Western Washington University, my hometown, and a Juris Doctorate from Gonzaga University School of Law. Kathryn has been a supporter of RPEC. She understands our concerns about the restoration of the PERS and TERS 1 cost of living adjustment. Thank you, Kathryn, for standing with us and helping to educate legislators about the need for equity among the PERS and TERS pension plans. Joining Director Leathers today is Seth Miller, Member Experience Division Assistant Director. Seth joined the Washington State Department of Retirement Systems in 2012. He has worked in a variety of roles, including retirement specialist, employer support specialist, management analyst, processing center manager, assistant director for the Retirement Services Division, retirement readiness officer, office director, and currently serves as the assistant director for the Member Experience Division, where the team focuses on improving retirement outcomes for public employees. So he's probably been in every piece of the office by now. Seth previously worked in higher education at Eastern Washington University and Central Washington University. Seth has a BS in mathematics and physics from Central Washington University. RPEC has been working with Seth for many years, and we deeply appreciate his responsiveness and willingness to address specific members that come from our issues that come from our members. Thank you, Kathryn and Seth, for joining us today. As a reminder, we ask RPEC members to put your questions in chat. Following the presentation, leaders from the Legislative Committee and the Pension Policy Work Group will kick off the Q&A period with some initial questions. Then Lori and Derek will field the questions in chat for Kathryn and Seth. So Kathryn and Seth, it's all yours.
Well, thank you and good morning. I'm really delighted to be here. And I'd be happy to continue these conversations on an ongoing basis, whatever you think would be beneficial to all of you. The one thing I want to say about Seth at the outset is that he is also serving as our legislative director. So he is not only our assistant director of member experience, he's also our point person for all legislative matters. So thank you, Seth, for wearing 2 hats. Thank you for being here because If I need to phone a friend at DRS, he's the one I phone to help me understand issues that come up from time to time that I don't yet know about, right? I'm still learning as the new director. So thank you, Seth. You did such a lovely job in introducing me, Claire. I was asked to speak a little bit about myself, but there's not much left to tell other than maybe to let all of you know that I grew up as an Army brat. My father was in the U.S. Army for 30 years, and so we moved about every 2 years, including 3 tours overseas. But we ended up here in Washington State in 1981. So I consider Washington State to be my home, and I've pretty much lived here since 1981 with a few very brief um, moves outside of the state for just different fun reasons. When you're young, you decide you want to go to Austin, Texas, or wherever it might be for a short time. I think it's important to me for you to understand that my experience as, I guess, an Army brat resulted in me really being open to other perspectives. I enjoy learning from others. I'm not afraid of change. I view all of those things as opportunities to grow. So I embraced my time as an Army brat and I loved it. Um, so I have been a lawyer for about 32 years. And, as Claire pointed out, most of that time I've been dedicated to public service. And I've dedicated most of my career to public service, frankly, just because that's where I feel the most personal satisfaction. Um, Yes, I did work for Governor Inslee for before COVID, throughout COVID, and after COVID. I will tell you, I think that's the most challenging professional experience that I've had in my 32 careers. It was both the most rewarding and the most challenging, and I don't regret a minute of it, but I would like to never experience another COVID pandemic if possible. Um, I guess I also want to just share at the outset that I truly personally live my life by a very simple code. Um, I start with acting with integrity because if you don't have integrity, frankly, nothing else matters. So integrity guides everything that I do. I believe in giving everything you do your best effort, no matter what the task is. And I believe in treating people with kindness. So that's sort of how I operate both my personal and professional life. I thought it might be helpful to remind folks of what DRS administers. I'm sure you're aware of your specific plans, but just as a reminder, we administer 8 retirement systems plus the deferred compensation program. So that includes 15 different retirement plans. It is literally one of the most complex retirement systems in the nation. In fact, we've recently been rated as we are in a three-way tie for the fourth most complex system in the country, um, which is something that we're going to keep reminding our legislators to not look as a challenge. This is not a competition that we want to win. We do not want to be the most complex system in the country. But I don't know if you know this, because of the complexity, when we do hire people for the retirement specialist position, we don't hire one at a time. We typically hire a class of retirement specialists. Probably a minimum class would be 6 people, maybe the most 16 or 20, somewhere in that area. But the reason we do that is that they are in class for 6 months straight of in-class training. That's 8 to 5, 5 days a week. All they do is train, get educated, try to start to understand the complexities of all of the different plans. And then there are at least 2 more months of training on the phones with mentors, with people tracking their phone calls, making sure that they're answering questions correctly. It's a really intense training program because our system is incredibly complex. You may not know exactly how many people we serve, but we serve now almost 1 million current and former public employees. So that breaks down to about 370,000 active members, about 240,000 retirees or beneficiaries, and then the rest are inactive members. Those are individuals who have left government employment, but they're not yet receiving payments. So we're serving about 1 million current and former public employees. We also partner with over 1,400 state and local government employers. Um, some other interesting statistics. We collect about $5.5 billion annually in contributions from both members and employers. We distribute about $8.1 billion in annual benefits, annual payments. And we oversee the retirement trust funds, which total about $196.8 billion. Now, the State Investment Board also manages other investments like the L&I workers' comp investments, some higher ed investments. So the numbers on their website may look a little larger, but for our purposes, for what falls within our portfolio, that's about $196.8 billion. We are currently working on a couple of significant projects that you may have heard about before. They're both IT projects. The first one is really mission critical. We call it the Core PAM project. PAM stands for Pension Administration Modernization. And that's essentially a complete replacement. I mean, a complete replacement and improvement of the system that we use to administer your pensions. It will impact every single division and is impacting every single division at DRS. And I should apologize for my voice. I think it's just 'tis the season. So I hope it's not too bad on your end. What I will say about this Core PAM project is that our current pension software is over 30 years old. It is fragile in part because even the people who know how to program this system, who know how to fix any bugs that arise in our system, they're retiring and they don't teach the programming language out there anymore to new IT professionals. So we are 100% focused, not 100%, because of course we do a lot of other things, but we are truly focused on making sure that this upgrade, this complete system upgrade, is as smooth as possible, that it happens on time. The legislature is supporting us with funding. We are currently on time and on budget with this project, but it will not be complete until probably the fall of 2027. It is a tremendous undertaking. Let's see. Oh, and this is not a project that we think that we can delay at all. This is not something that we could just, for the reasons that I said before, because the people who actually are experts in this system are also retiring. We need to land this and complete it successfully by September-ish of 2027. And it will be a true success in my book if you never even notice the change, right? If this is just smooth and you have no idea that a new system has been replaced, is is successfully replacing the current one. The second project that we actually just completed is what we call our LexisNexis identity verification software project. This is another critical IT software project that is truly focused on strengthening our cybersecurity, fraud, and privacy protections. That will be an ongoing focus for DRS always, right? And that's something that we have to be mindful of. The bad actors are out there, they're relentless. So we have to be proactive and vigilant. But I am really thrilled to tell you that we successfully completed the LexisNexis project just days ago, I think, or roughly. I'm looking at Seth. So that was a successful project that has increased the privacy protections and security protections for all of you, hopefully with very, very little impact on your daily lives. So I've been in this role for about 9 months now. What I've learned is that this department is filled with team members who are dedicated to the mission of this agency. They deeply care about serving you. They deeply care about the opportunity to make sure that every single public employee gets exactly what they deserve in their retirement, right? It is such a pleasure to be here. I am working with one of the best leadership teams I have ever worked with, including Seth Miller. So to that end, I would really actually like to thank the former director, Tracy Guerin, for putting together such a fantastic leadership team, for managing this agency in a way that I just see zero gaps or weaknesses in this agency. It is strong, and I'm just delighted to be here and very, very grateful to Tracy. We do have some challenges. I think the current biggest challenge is statewide funding shortfalls, frankly. There are also, you probably all know, federal funding cuts that are being talked about left and right. One thing you should know is that DRS does not receive any federal funding, so it does not impact our state agency, any of these federal funding cuts that you're hearing about. Those cuts also do not impact your pension payments. So none of the federal funding cuts that you're hearing about out there will impact our agency, our staffing levels, or your pension checks. I just want to be really clear about that. As a result, however, of some state funding shortfalls, the governor has imposed a freeze on all state agency as it relates to hiring, contracting, any significant spending whatsoever. And that freeze has been in place for at least a year now. And I don't expect it to go away anytime soon. I think we're probably going to be operating under a spending freeze for quite some time. Obviously, there are some exceptions that are allowed, but generally, we have to be very, very mindful of any request for funding, and any request for funding has to be approved by the governor. So, in light of our fiscal constraints, and frankly, being mindful of those fiscal constraints, I'm focused on probably three main areas. The first is, and always probably will be, customer service, right? Within our fiscal constraints, we are always focused on customer service. I think the second is landing that core PAM project, replacing our legacy system infrastructure on time and within budget. And then security. Security has got to always be top of mind for our agency, protecting your privacy. So on the customer satisfaction side, um, we have begun a strategic plan, I guess refresh is one way to look at it. Um, we are taking a deep dive into our current strategic plan to think about what our customers and partners need, what they think we're doing well, where they think we can do better. Um, and within our, again, fiscal constraints, I'm saying that multiple times, but it's just so true. And it's important to make people aware that we are operating in some tough fiscal environments here. But what we want to do is create a roadmap for how we can make some short-term improvements within our fiscal constraints, but then also plan long-term, right? Look for the big picture because we know that we will not always be operating within these difficult fiscal um, limitations. So short-term and long-term opportunities are something that we're looking for to include in our strategic plan. We have reached out to our employees, of course, but also to our customers, to employers, to legislators, to other stakeholders that we work with. And we hope to incorporate all of their feedback. We've used surveys, we've used some focus groups, but this is like a year-long process that we're going to be engaged in. I think we're maybe 3 months into this process, roughly. And so I think that within a year, we will hopefully have a new strategic plan that will reflect our vision, our mission, and the input that we hear from all of you and our other stakeholders and partners. So that's sort of on the customer side. And again, on the infrastructure side, I hope this core PAM project, I know this core PAM project will be successful and we will land it on time because we have an outstanding project management team. And again, we are on time and operating within budget. Other categories of opportunities for improving our state agency that I'm looking at include succession planning, because I think that's key to any agency is to make sure that as your leaders are looking to retire or move on, that you very thoughtfully and intentionally plan for their replacement. So we're working on succession planning as well. And I feel like I've just been talking forever in a very scratchy voice, and I apologize for that. I know I have a lot more to learn, but I really am thrilled to be here and continue to serve all public servants. It is an honor to be in this position, and I appreciate Governor Ferguson placing his trust in me. So with that, I will pause, and hopefully Seth and I can successfully answer any questions that you might have.
Lori, are you going to lead the Q&A part?
Yes, I am. Thank you, Director Leathers. As was mentioned earlier, we are thankful to our leaders of our legislative committee, as well as the leaders and members of our pension policy work group, and they put together some questions for your consideration. The first question will be asked by Gail Spaeth, who's a member of our pension policy work group. Gail? Gail, we still have you on mute.
Yeah, sorry, I just realized that. Thank you very much for providing us this opportunity to get to know you. It is important to put a face on things, so thank you very much, and I'm glad to be able to be here today via via this electronic wonder called Zoom. Um, as a new director of DRS, you face multiple challenges, including one of the largest pension systems in the country. What do you see as your most pressing challenges in the immediate future, and how will you go about addressing them?
It's a great question. Thank you for that. I think I've probably mentioned these things a couple of times already, and so I'm sorry for repeating myself, but I do believe that replacing our core legacy system, that the modernization project is critical because it is literally core to everything that we're doing. It's the 30 plus year old system that enables us to provide you with service and to work seamlessly with employers and stakeholders. So successfully completing that core project is top of mind for our entire agency. And what we're doing, I think, is exactly what we should be doing, is we are monitoring the entire project on a daily basis. We are working with WATEC to make sure that we are making the progress that is expected. And we are exactly where we should be in this project. And I'm just delighted and so pleased about it. But it does keep us up at night. I'll be honest with all of you. It's one of those projects that is so significant that it does cause us a little bit of heartburn. But I have great confidence in our team, and we are again on time, within budget, and fully supported by the legislature. So I expect us to have this completed by the end of, or roughly September, October of 2027. So until that time, we're just going to keep doing exactly what we are doing. And I feel very confident that this project is going to be successful. The other thing that I think is a challenge, I've mentioned it already once or twice, it's just cybersecurity issues, right? Fraud, that we have to be ever vigilant. I think the bad actors are relentless. They get more and more creative. And with the completion this month of that LexisNexis IT software, that is a huge, huge step in helping to further protect our system and your privacy and your information. But um, we can't stop being vigilant. It's something that we have to keep being proactive about, working with our partners to make sure that that's something that we stay on top of. So I know it's a technical, those two answers are about IT and technology, but they are key to making sure that our system continues to run, that our pension checks go out on time and accurately, and that fraud does not occur, or we're able to detect fraud attempts far before they're ever successful, because they're not going to stop. So those are the two biggest challenges I think that we have right now, are our legacy system replacement and just constantly being proactive as it relates to cybersecurity issues.
Thank you. Warren Warfield chairs our pension policy work group, and I know that you responded to a part of his question relating to the strategic plan. Do you have anything that you'd like to address relative to the strategic plan, Warren, knowing that Director Leathers has covered a portion of that?
Well, I think, Kathryn, you covered your plan to revisit the strategic plan for DRS, and that you've appointed an advisory committee to help you come up with some suggestions. I know you'll feel somewhat constrained because of budget issues and everything, but how constrained do you feel you'll be if the advisory committee comes up with some pretty broad recommendations to revisit that strategic plan?
I think we're going to welcome any and all input as we work on our strategic plan refresh and update. I think if some of the recommendations uh, involve a significant financial investment, that's certainly something that could be a future goal, because certainly we would have to go to the legislature and seek funding. And I have to be perfectly honest with all of you, they are, billions of dollars um, in the red right now. And it is unlikely that we are going to get additional funding for anything that is not mission critical. I mean, that's just a reality that all state agencies are going to have to deal with. But my hope is that the input from the advisory committee, that many of those suggestions can be incorporated, not necessarily something that can get done tomorrow or next month, but also future facing. And what would the advisory council suggest that the department think about as far as additional services that it could provide in the future? Because again, I don't think we're going to be in the same fiscally constrained situation forever, and we need to plan for the future. And I think that time is now.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, our next question is going to be posed by Diane Yates, and we want to acknowledge Diane. She will be serving on the DRS Advisory Committee, and so we're delighted that she'll be representing RPEC and other retirees. So Diane, would you like to share the next question?
First, I'd like to say it's nice to see you again, Kathryn and Seth. I've been really happy with the onboarding process to the advisory committee to help me get up to speed quickly. My question is, does DRS have a significant backlog in processing pensions for individual filings for retirement and/or in recalculating pensions following the death of a spouse? And if so, would it be helpful? I know these are trying times budget-wise, but would it be helpful for RPEC to assist in securing additional funding to address this backlog if there is one?
Thank you. And it's really lovely to see you again, Diane. And I'm excited that you're going to be joining the advisory committee. I think it's fantastic. So DRS has actually been very lucky over the last few budget cycles to receive additional spending authority for more customer service staffing. So the backlogs that you've mentioned were essentially eliminated before I came on board. I'll set aside the death process backlog, but all the other backlogs that I think maybe some folks have experienced have essentially been eliminated. And that's because the legislature supported us with some funding, and our leadership team was able to increase the number of staff dedicated to those specific issues where we were very, very aware of some challenges there. The death processes still do have some backlogs. We have tried to increase staffing levels. We will continue to do that. We're also looking for ways to streamline those procedures. That can be really challenging. When a member dies, there are a lot of challenging procedures, whether it's paperwork, that we sometimes can't control when we get the information that we need. I think it's also very challenging to work sometimes with family members. I don't mean that in a negative way. I just mean that it's the death process at DRS is a specialty unit, and those procedures tend to take a little more time just because of the complications around those issues. I do want to thank you, though, for offering to provide support for any fiscal requests, for any funding requests. We will certainly seek your assistance in the future should that ever become a need that we think we can actually get the governor to approve. But we would certainly need to ask the governor to also approve any funding request. Seth, was there anything that you wanted to add to the? No? Okay, thank you.
Great, thank you. The next question is from Linda Nelson, and she serves on the Pension Policy Work Group. Linda?
Well, good morning. And Kathryn, it's so nice to have this opportunity to speak with you. And I want to thank you for all your public service. It was delightful to hear all the varied things that you've done, and they all sound like they're going to be helpful in your work with the retirement system. But the question that I'd like to pose for you is, can you outline the steps for a retiree to address issues with their pension check? So that might be Seth too.
Yeah.
If there's a problem, what's the first step, and can we outline it and maybe get that on a web page so it's accessible to retirees if there are questions?
Honestly, I have kind of a short answer to this. If you have a problem, call us. Call us and we will get you to the right person. I would say the vast majority of phone calls like this can be resolved by the person who actually answers the phone. But if they need to get you to the fiscal department, or if there's some kind of a disagreement with how an amount was calculated, there is an administrative process review, and we will direct each and every person to the appropriate next step depending on exactly what the issue is. So I think step one, call us. And then we will figure out step two for every single person who calls us.
Thank you. That sounds like a very reasonable answer. I appreciate it. So thank you.
You're welcome.
Our next question is from Dave Koenig, who serves as the chair of our legislative committee. Dave?
Good morning. Thank you for your time. Can you provide information about the Department of Retirement Systems online account services for retirees?
I will do my best. Thank you for the question. I think the most common services that someone would use their online account for is to probably update your contact information, whether it's your email address or your phone number or your mailing address. When those things change, you can use the online account system for that. Or you could update information regarding your pension deposit, whether it's your tax withholdings or bank account information. You could also send DRS a secure message through your online account. You can review tax documents, I think the last 3 years worth. You can also see details about your last 2 deposits. So there's a broad range of ways you can use that online account, from the simple things to the more maybe complex issues. But again, you can send us a secure message, and maybe that's one of the greatest benefits to that.
Okay, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
So our last question from our PEC leaders before we get into those in chat is from Nancy Healy. Nancy is the co-chair of our legislative committee. She also serves as a member of our executive board. Nancy?
Hello, so nice to see you. I'd like to start out with thanking your agency. I retired in 2007 and it's gone well. And when I first retired, I stopped by the office and was always treated respectfully and kindly, and they didn't talk down to me. I was very supportive. I appreciate all of that. So thank you so much. I want to add one more part before I get to my real question. I was curious how many employees there are at DRS, if that's it.
I think roughly 275.
Oh.
Yep, roughly.
I just assumed it was a lot more with all the work you do. All right, so here's my real question. Can you explain the public records request submittal and notification process?
Yes, I will do my best. I will back up a little bit. I'm sure most of you know this, but just to sort of to ground everyone, we have a very strong Public Records Act in Washington State, which starts with the presumption that everything that a public employee does is a public record that is accessible by anyone in the public. So that's text messages, phone calls, emails, documents, and materials that we gather, documents that we create to do our job. Those are all public records, and anyone in the public, anyone can submit a public records request, and they can submit a request anonymously. They don't have to identify themselves. And that is our Public Records Act that I've lived with since I started working in public service. And the idea is that government, we work for the people, and the people should have the ability to see the work that we're doing. There are, of course, exemptions for very personal information, like Social Security numbers are exempt. So if somebody were to request a record that had someone's Social Security number in it, that Social Security number would be redacted before it was released to the individual. But that's just sort of the backdrop. So let's say anonymous Jane submits a public records request to the department. Within 5 days, according to state law, we are required to respond to anonymous Jane and acknowledge that she submitted a public records request, and then give her an estimate of when we think we will have all of the records that we requested released to her. If what she's asking for is information about an individual, for example, information about retirees and maybe how much, how much money we're sending out to different retirees, we will do what's called a third party notice, where we let individuals know that a public records request has been submitted related to their individual information, and those individuals are permitted to try to seek an injunction in Superior Court to prevent the release of any personally identifiable information that would rise to the level of extremely harmful if released. It's a very high bar. I don't have the language exactly memorized, but certainly Social Security numbers cannot be released. There are other types of exemptions within the Public Records Act that prevent certain personal information from being released. And again, we would redact all of that. But sometimes individuals feel that if their personal information is released, it would be harmful to them, and they are allowed an opportunity to go to Superior Court and seek an injunction. We cannot provide legal advice. We cannot help with that. All we can do is send out a notice to the individuals who are impacted, letting them know that a public records request has been made, and that would give them an option to try to seek an injunction. Again, it's a really high bar to be successful in that, but that is an option for individuals. Other than that, I think the Public Records Act requests that we get are pretty routine usually, seeking maybe information about a particular petition or issue that has been before the department, and we routinely collect documents from the employees who might have information. Those documents are reviewed for any information that should be redacted first, and then we release that information. The other thing that you should know that is also a public record is the public record log itself. So if you wanted to know how many public records requests our agency received over the last year, or who submitted those requests and what the request was for, you can request a copy of the log. Now, of course, if somebody submitted an anonymous request, we have, you won't know who that is because it will say anonymous. But I think that's essentially how our public records request process works here, and frankly, in just about every state agency. Um, it's
Thank you.
complicated. It's complicated. You're welcome.
Thank you. That was a lot.
That's a lot. I'm sorry. Yeah.
That was a lot. So I'm going to go through the questions. I'm going to respond to the first one. There was a question about JSR 8201. And for everyone to know, that has to do with it has to do with investments uh, in SIB. It's outside of the scope of what Kathryn's here to talk about. I will say that we can talk offline about that. It's been supported by our PAC, and the vice chair of the SIB is one of our members, and so she has offered support. So I'm happy to offline with any of you about that, and I'll put my information in chat. We have a question about DRS's position or thinking about the introduction of new retirement plans, and you were asked to share some insights there.
Well, the only thing I can think about right now is how complex our current system is, right? It is, again, we are in a three-way tie for the fourth most complex system in the nation. And without seeing the details of what a new plan might look like, without understanding how challenging it might be to administer a new plan, um, we will do whatever the legislature tells us to do is what we will do, and we will do it with a smile on our face, and we will embrace it. But we will probably also, I will try to advocate for keeping our system as simple as possible because it is just, it's very challenging to administer all of these plans. Adding more plans would be even more challenging. But that's our job, right? At the end of the day, that is our job, and we will do whatever the legislature directs us to do.
Thank you. I'm going to combine two questions. They both relate to deferred compensation. So so it'll be two questions together. The first is, do you anticipate any significant changes or adjustments to the deferred compensation program? And then the second part of that question is, can you give some detail about why our deferred compensation program does not allow for charitable contributions?
Oh,
I'm happy to take that one, Kathryn.
thank you.
Yeah. And actually, the great thing is both of these questions kind of point back to the federal government in that the deferred compensation program is governed by federal law and the IRS. And the changes that have happened within the deferred comp program over the last few years have primarily been driven by changes at the federal level. In 2019 and 2020 and 2022, there were new laws that changed different parts of the plan, allowed for different types of distributions, allowed for different ages. I'm sure most of you are aware that the required minimum distribution age changed. Those sorts of things are driven at the federal level. So it's a little bit hard for us to say if there are going to be future changes. It's always unclear what Congress is going to do. I don't think we've heard anything specific. I would not be surprised if there are additional changes, especially as additional revenue sources are of interest at the federal level. So happy to, we will continue to keep everyone up to date on those as we learn about them, but oftentimes those changes also come at the very last minute. There are bills pass in December that we have to implement in January. So, and then the question around charitable contributions is actually completely governed by the IRS and which plans are allowed to and which plans aren't. And 457 plans are not allowed to make charitable, usually what they're called charitable minimum distributions or charitable RMDs. So for people who are interested in that, we usually encourage people to roll those funds over into an IRA or another plan that allows for charitable distributions. I understand that's what some people want to do with their RMD payments, and totally reasonable. It's just not something you can do directly from your 457 account. You can do it indirectly, but then you usually end up on the hook for the taxes. So totally understand that, but it's not something we're allowed to do.
Thank you. Someone was curious about you referenced earlier, Director Leathers, about the complication of systems and that ours is pretty complicated, ranks quite high. Do you want to go into any more detail about that, or I thought you said you would be ranked in like the top 4, something like that. Who's number 1?
I think number 1 is CalPERS, California, right?
Yeah, but it's because of its size.
They're the biggest and the most complex. Yeah.
Derek, maybe you can scan questions for me. I have a question that I'd like to ask, and I don't know whether you would answer it or Seth would answer it. But in the past, RPEC has been a partner, as you both know, with DRS when you've brought forward agency request legislation. And we were really pleased to support your efforts in the last few years around Month of Death. And what we'd like to know is, do you have anything in the hopper that you're comfortable sharing that we might be able to support you with in the new legislative session that begins in January?
Kathryn, I'm happy to take that as well. Yeah, we've made 2 requests to the governor's office for agency request legislation, both very small bills as far as kind of what feel more like technical changes. The second one that I'll talk about is actually to get to some of what Kathryn was talking about, try to make it slightly less complex. But the first one, in the most recent budget cycle, we were given authority to add a few additional positions that are paid for from the trust fund instead of our administrative fund. And we requested legislation to provide that authority in law going forward so that we would be able to keep those positions paid for by the trust fund. And as Kathryn mentioned, most of those positions have to do with cybersecurity, fraud prevention, things that are in defense of the trust. So we have asked to clarify the law and make sure we can continue to do that. And then the second bill is very, very technical. For people who have really small pension payments, they have the option to continue to take them monthly, or to start to take them monthly, or they can take a lifetime equivalent lump sum right when they retire. And in Plan 2, the threshold is if their pension benefit is under $200. I'm sorry, if it's under $50. And in Plan 3, it's currently about $210, and that amount in Plan 3 increases every year. So when Plan 3 was created, they thought ahead and said, oh, let's make sure we have this inflation protection on this benefit. But they didn't put that in Plan 2. So we've asked that they make the threshold the same between the 2 plans and have Plan 2 match Plan 3, just for simplicity's sake. There aren't a ton of people that this falls into, and it wouldn't have a cost overall to the plan. It is really for administrative ease and then to hopefully make things a little bit less confusing for folks who fall into that situation. But we would certainly appreciate whatever support anyone wants to throw behind them, because they are pretty small technical issues.
Yeah, we're happy to provide support, and we appreciate you explaining both of them to us. As I look at chat, I'm not seeing that there are any new questions. We're going to give people an opportunity if you'd like to put any final questions in chat for our DRS director and for Seth Miller.
And can I say that Seth's explanation of the difference between a Plan 2 and a Plan 3 on that one specific issue is a perfect example of the complexities within our system, that there are so many exceptions and it depends on the plan. And then there's left 2, which is always different, or left, right. I mean, there are many, many differences amongst the plans and exceptions, and that's part of what makes our particular system so complex.
Wonderful. I'm doing a quick scan and I'm not seeing any more questions. Before Claire closes up today's meeting, I just wanted to thank DRS and we have a new relationship with you, Kathryn. We have appreciated you being so available to us and to our chapters. I want to especially thank Seth because he's been partnering with Jacob Knupp, our membership coordinator, for some time and has been a wonderful resource to us. And I just want to alert everyone that DRS has a great website that they keep very current. There's a lot of important information on it. They have an outstanding podcast that we have also tried to cross promote, and we appreciate when you've cross promoted our podcast as well. So we just thank you for your commitment to keeping Washingtonians and our public sector retirees so well informed. And with that, Claire, would you like to bring us to a close?
Well, Kathryn and Seth, thank you so much for your time today. As a dedicated former public servant myself, I'm always happy to see the dedication that I so much value in all the folks that continue to serve the citizens of the great state. And yours especially seems very solid. So appreciate all your dedication and the hard work that you do. We want to also thank our members of the pension policy work group who helped craft and ask questions today, as well as the chair and co-chair of our legislative committee, Dave and Nancy, Warren and his group at the pension policy work group. And I just want to mention that the recording will be made available through a link in the weekly news flash for anybody that wants to review this presentation. And there will be a blog on the website, the RPEC website, for that purpose. And with that, thanks for your time today. Really appreciate it.
Thank you all so much for your support, for your advocacy. And I look forward to strengthening our relationship and working with all of you over the next, hopefully, several years. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.